We're back with more Tapped Out with Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine on the BetQL Network.
All right, welcome back into Tapped Out on the BetQL Network. I'm very excited to talk to our next guest, a good friend of mine and one of the best in the business, the owner of the Boca Boxing District, and a great trainer. He's trained the likes of Dustin Poirier, Johnny Eblen there at American Top Team. Dyah Davis joining us here on the show. Dyah, thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, man, you got it, brother. You're the man.
I appreciate you giving me some time, man. So UFC 291, it is coming up. It's a big monster fight day coming up on July 29th. How is the training going for that one, man? The tune-up of the rematch between Dustin and Justin for the BMF strap.
Training is going well. We actually just finished up some sparring today. He's looking sharp, clean, collected. His mind is where it needs to be. He's looking great, man. He's focused and ready to go.
This was a great fight the last time these guys did it. Dustin's so good in these chaotic fights as a coach. How much do you look back to that fight? I mean, you're used to rematches. You just kind of did this with Conor. How much do you take the intel from the old fight as opposed to, I guess, where your fighter is currently?
You know what? I think we go to the old fight to look at some of the things that went wrong, and then we look at some current footage to look to where we can capitalize going forward. So, obviously the leg kicks were a hindrance to us in the first matchup. So, obviously we're working on some things to avoid situations like that. And going forward, he's got a couple new wrinkles in his game, and we're working on making sure we capitalize in those moments as well.
What is those calf kicks, man? Like, they've become such a prevalent weapon in mixed martial arts. Like, as a coach, like, how do you avoid it? Like, what's the best way to get through? Is it just take toughness? Because it doesn't, maybe to like the casual fan, they don't notice how much those things hurt. But I mean, mobility is such a big thing for your fighters. How do you avoid something like that in a fight like this?
Well, you know what? Gaethje tended to kick more upper thigh. And believe it or not, Dustin had a torn quad after the fight. Yeah, he had a partially torn quad. So he was out for some time afterwards. But yeah, I mean, we definitely got to work on some checks, just ways to get out of the way of that and make sure that we're not being hindered by those kicks going forward and, this upcoming fight.
Do you guys for a relationship like you and Dustin have and a coach-fighter relationship, you had so many years together. What do you do to try and keep things? Do you try and keep things fresh? Do you keep it sharp? Like, do you try and, I don't know, do new drills in camp or something different? Or is there a beauty in the comfort of what works and what gets him ready?
I mean, at this stage in his career, we know what works. He is a striker first, and based on who he's fighting, we work on what we need to use for that fight.
For this fight in particular, I was wondering about the altitude. Like Salt Lake City, it's a little bit higher up. You guys train down here in South Florida. Justin does train in Denver. Is there any concern there? Like, are you guys going to do anything to accommodate to that, or do you just go in how you go in?
I mean, I'll be honest. There's some concern there, but at the end of the day, we know he's putting in his work here. He's made sure that he is, ready for that. So actually, we're getting there a week early. They say the best thing to do is to either get there a week early or get there like 2 or 3 days to where you won't even notice it or you're not even thinking about it. But there's some other precautions that he's taking to get ready for this as well. Like, he'll be sleeping in the tent at altitude, which is, pretty remarkable. He's sleeping in the tent. So he'll start about like 2,000, and then every couple of days or so, he'll just increase by 500. And then hopefully, closing in on the fight date, we'll be up above 4,500 elevation for, to where he's sleeping at and waking up and getting those elevated red blood cells that he needs for this fight. Man. So altitude won't be much of a problem.
Such a science to it, man. Like, the things you got to think about in a fight, it's because, like, it's already a chaotic enough fight. You talked about two of the baddest guys on the planet. Obviously, that's why the belt's on the line that it is. But man, those little wrinkles, like you always got to think about those extra. When you were like fighting Did you think about this? Like, what were some of the weird oddities? Like, if you had to go on the road for a fight, or you had to go into somebody's backyard, like, what do you remember? Like a certain oddity when you were getting ready for somebody in a boxing match that, like, I'm prepped, I feel good, but I also got to remember this to make sure I'm at my best.
Well, not really, because I never fought at altitude. I did fight overseas. I fought in the UK, and we knew there was a time difference, a 6-hour time difference. So I would try to get there maybe a week earlier just to get acclimated to the time. It's a little bit of an adjustment. You're fighting 6 hours forward as opposed to your standard EST time.
Your fight, we haven't talked since your fight. You made your comeback.
I wouldn't call it a comeback. I wouldn't call it a comeback.
All right, a one-off, but you did it back. Like, how did it live up to it? Like, you had many years. You wanted to at least check it off. You said you had the itch, and you came out successful with it. Like, how did it live up to it? Were you happy with it? And how did you feel afterwards? Did you have an itch ever that you wanted to keep? Maybe one more.
I mean, I still feel like I can do it. I still feel like I can do it at the highest level. The time is not permitted. That's the only thing. I'm a family man now. I'm an entrepreneur. So, it's just, I don't have the time. I couldn't allocate the time to do it. But to go in there after 5.5 years off and to go out there and perform at a high level and get my guy out of there in the first round, there's not much more I can ask for.
Did that moment, did it live up to anything as far as that's concerned? Like, were you proud of yourself that you were able to do? I remember you mentioned saying, like, the runs, the training, like, just getting back into it. Like, how did you, I guess, just what was the satisfaction you had in it?
I mean, the satisfaction was getting a first round knockout. Coming out with my hands raised was obviously was great, but I will say the training was a lot harder than the fight. And I was hoping to, finish up around 1, finish up around 2, maybe test the heartbeats a little bit. Like, I wanted to feel like I was in a fight. And so to that level, it was a little unsatisfactory. But nonetheless, I went out there and got what was expected of me, which is to go out there and get the victory and get my hands raised. And, what better way to do it off a knockout win?
Yeah.
Take a looking at your opponent and see him on the ground and being counted out.
That's awesome, man. I'm happy I'm happy that you at least got if it doesn't go further, whatever. Like, I'm happy that you set out a goal, and not surprisingly, like, you were able to accomplish it. Like, you were able to show, like, you still got it if you wanted to tune it up and get it.
Right. I was actually just talking to Kevin Gleason today, man. I said, man, I got to come see you at least 2 or 3 days a week just to stay sharp. He's like, what? Are you trying to tell me we got one more? And I said, I didn't say that. I said, I just want to stay sharp, because by me staying sharp also helps my fighters stay sharp, like, if I ever decide to get in there and mix it up with them, at least I can give them an honest look.
Big news this week. I'm interested in your perspective about this, because I think everybody feels like they know what's going to happen, because, when an MMA fighter goes over to boxing, you feel like the MMA guy's got no shot. So Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou got announced this week.
Right.
Is there a prayer in hell for Francis? Has he got a shot? Because Tyson's the man. He's already doing this against the best heavyweights in the world. It's going to be a cool spectacle, but, like, how, if there's any way, does he have a shot at beating Tyson Fury?
Listen, man, the guy's got 2 healthy arms, 2 healthy legs. He's got a brain on his shoulders. So, I mean, there's definitely a possibility he can get it done, but the chances are very unlikely, I should say. But he's a puncher, so anyone who could punch and that has that kind of knockout ratio and that kind of knockout ability, he's got a chance.
All
it takes is one. If he lands one, it could be good night.
Is there a biggest difference, like, Dyah? Like, obviously, you have so much expertise in boxing, but, like, when you take that over to MMA, what's the biggest difference? Like, when there is that transition, or an MMA guy as opposed to the best boxer that goes on? Like, what are the things that are just a little bit of a difference there?
I mean, obviously the training, with boxing, you're only focused on one thing, and that's just boxing. With MMA, there's so many different aspects of the fight game. You've got jiu-jitsu, you've got Muay Thai. It's just all the arts put together. So they're not just solely focused on one thing. With boxing, they've only got to worry about their hands and nothing else.
You think it's a big deal or not a big deal that he's saying this is going to be his last welterweight fight? Like he is, thinking about moving up to 154. Yeah, I mean,
Who's that, Errol or Crawford?
Errol. Yeah, I'm sorry, Errol Spence is saying that. Like the naturally bigger guy, but like, do you think is there much stock in that being a big difference, or are they just? Do you think Terrence's skills enough that the size shouldn't be that big a deal?
Well, I know Errol's a big guy. I know he typically walks around out of camp, high 180s, 190s plus. I've known some guys that he sparred with who are heavyweights. Yeah, that surprised me. Guy came down. He says, "Yeah, man, I'm basically one of Errol's chief sparring partners." I'm like, "Dude, you're 200 plus pounds." He's like, "Errol's a big guy, man." So I'm not surprised that he'd be moving up in weight, but that all is granted if he wins his fight. There are rematch clauses. I mean, if he loses, I'm sure he wants to exercise his rematch clause. So, we'll see. But I think he can definitely hold his own at 154, 160, possibly even 168 if he wanted to.
Yeah. A couple more before we get you out of here, Dyah. And Dyah Davis, fantastic job. A great trainer, owner of the Boca Boxing District, which you guys see on UFC Countdown. He is training Dustin Poirier coming up for UFC 291. Robbie Lawler's career just came to an end in a fantastic fashion. Spent some time at American Top Team. Just what was your reaction to that moment? That was pretty cool to see a guy get to go out on top like that.
Right. I mean, typically you don't see that, right? A guy hang around for I don't know how many years, probably 15 years in the UFC, which is the pinnacle of the MMA right now. No, he's been in Strikeforce as well, but he's been in the UFC for the most part of his career. Happy to see him go out on top. Happy to see him go out with a KO win over a durable guy like Nico Price. Most times when guys hang around just a little bit too long, they don't go out with wins. They go out with, oh man, I hate to see a guy go out like that. But fortunately, he got the dub, and if he's true to his word, then he won't make a return. Sounded like Conor was chirping a little bit. Maybe he wants to pull him out of retirement. Maybe he needs a win. Maybe he thinks he can get it done against Robbie. But again, Robbie's a great friend of mine, man. I'm happy to see him go out on top.
Yeah, well, I'm curious about this because you obviously have gotten ready for Conor fights before. What do you think, man? What do you make of this from the outside looking in? Like, do you feel like he's coming back, or do you feel like he says he's coming back just to like be around and have headlines, but it doesn't look like he could come back? It's a devastating injury to come back from.
Yeah, genuinely, I think Conor wants to come back. I think the demons outside, the partying, the drinking, the cocaine, if that's the case, it's been said that, he dabbles a little bit. I think if that's the case, man, it's just hard to fight those demons, man. If you're living this lifestyle, you got so much money in your bank account and in your pockets. It's like, Marvin Hagler said it best. He's like, it's hard to get ready for a fight when you're waking up in silk pajamas.
Yeah.
So, how's he gonna do it? He says he wants to do it, but I believe in his heart, he wants to do it. I just don't think that he has the ability to do so. I don't think he can say no to the party lifestyle, say no to the no drinking, and truly dial in and stay focused 100% on the fight game. Not at this stage in his life.
My last one for you, Dyah, is Johnny Eblen. We've had him on the show before, but this guy is, for UFC fans who don't watch Bellator, like this guy's a monster. I mean, this guy, he seems like one of the best middleweights on the planet. For those who don't understand it, like what makes Johnny Eblen special when you're training with this guy?
Man, believe it or not, Johnny's only been at this MMA career and journey only 8 years, but he is in the gym nonstop every day. I mean, there's been times where I'm trying to pull this guy away, like, hey, Johnny, like, relax, bro. Your fight's not until another 3 months. He's like, nah, I just want to get better. I'm like, yeah, but there's a such thing as overtraining. No, I'll be all right. I get proper rest, and I'm getting my sunlight, and I'm eating organ meat. Like, he does things to where as a fighter is supposed to do. He's resting properly. Stats. He's all about stats. He wears what's it called? The whoop. I don't know if you ever heard about this.
So like a ring. That's like the ring. Something
like
that.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the ring, and it lets you know if you're fully recovered, and if you're getting your proper rest and if you're dehydrated, like it's just got all these things to read your heart rate and let you know where you're at. And he follows that thing to a T. And he's in the gym. Like, dude, he's probably been Dustin's chief sparring partner for this fight going forward.
Man, that's nuts. Well, listen, you train. You've done a hell of a job with both of them, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man.
I appreciate you giving us some time. Thank you so much, man. Good luck with the travel coming on up. Enjoy that altitude, and try and stay cool down here. Dyah Davis, and go check him out. Boca Boxing District, just a fantastic facility. He's done a fantastic job with it. How many years have you been open now, man? Is it 5?
4.5. 4.5. Coming up on 5. February will be 5.
Congratulations, man. Well,
we got to get you back in here, champ. Let's go,
get down
champ.
there. I got to.
Almost champion.
All right, Dyah, I appreciate it, man.